Good afternoon, and welcome to the Governance and Priorities Committee meeting for the Town of Rocky Mountain House. Today is May 14th, 2024, and I am calling this meeting to order. So first item of business, we have the adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions or deletions from today's agenda? Councillor Musker.
Yes, I'd like to make an amendment that we invert 7.4 and 7.3. I think it would just be more conducive to the flow of the agenda and to encourage good discussion.
Okay, sure. I think that sounds fine. Any other changes to the agenda? No? Okay, I'm looking for a motion. Councillor Phillips.
Yes, I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Thank you for your motion. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed. That is carried. Thank you. So we don't have any delegations today. Adoption of previous minutes. Did the minutes from the last meeting look okay to everybody? Councillor Schipholt?
Also move the minutes as distributed.
Sounds good. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? None opposed, and that is carried. So no delegation business to discuss. Old business, none. New business. So we have 7.1, an RFD for a town landmark. And I will refer to you, Mr. Kraus.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Ms. Button will present this
Perfect.
item to
Thank
council.
you.
Thank you, Council. So I am here today looking for your direction and guidance. In Council's 2023-26 strategic plan, you included a goal of having a notable downtown landmark. The discussion I recall at service level was a place for people to get photos, something that people see and says, aha, that's Rocky Mountain House. And Council even has set a $200,000 capital budget in this 2024 year to go towards this landmark. So where it goes from here is really up to Council, if this is a goal that you wish to pursue. I do have some considerations that I think are important for you to keep in mind, which are ongoing maintenance cost, of course, regular cleaning and maintenance, vandalism mitigation. These are all things that our crews in the field deal with every day. And so when you're thinking of a landmark, those are things to consider. And then as well, this would be a really great, and I mentioned in the report, if you choose to go down the route, to do significant public engagement and hear from the community what they may want. If you choose to go that route, I would encourage a professional facilitator to manage that engagement if you wish. We've seen it. The professionals can really get a targeted response from people who are keen to weigh in on this exact, on the project. They're good at that. So that's basically where I am. Oh, aspects to consider. Those are the rest of them. So the purpose and vision, your design, location, zoning. Obviously, if it's at council's direction, our planning department would work within the parameters of our LUB to work on zoning. We talk about accessibility, accessibility and inclusivity for everyone, regardless of their physical capabilities. And obviously the long-term maintenance and adaptability, because we do know that times change, and what you love today may not be something that you love in 5 to 10 years. And so these are all things. It's a big decision you have to weigh, and so I just made those points to hopefully help council in their discussion.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any comments? Councillor Phillips.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I believe Ms. Button hit this on the head. We definitely need to talk to the public about this, and we have to have some type of public engagement, simply because it's as good as this project is. We need the public engagement. We need to have their ideas, their thoughts, their reasoning and rationale behind it. So I think that's probably the first step we need to do, is have public engagement, and that's my 2 cents on this one.
Thank you. Anybody else? Counselor Hutchinson?
Thank you. I still kind of think that there's another element to it, and that's the vision that we have as council for today, tomorrow, and the future. I know we've got that coming up on a later meeting, but you know, what does that look like? Are we looking at a landmark not just for photo opportunities and to attract people in town, but is it something that will be branding across the town, be it you know, in the convenience stores, in the stores on Main Street? You know, I'll use, say, a bear, you know, if that's it, and we have little teddy bears for sale, and we have big bears for sale, or whatever that may look like. So I kind of, you know, I definitely agree we need to have public consultation, and that may look something like, you know, the ways of a contest. I know the county had done their street naming. They had put that out to the public. But I think that there's still a bigger picture we're missing, and that is what do we vision for the town of Rocky Mountain House?
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything to add? Counselor Auld?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think we need to do, as council, a lot more work on this before we proceed. If it's going to be something to a larger scale, we don't have the land to put it on, we don't have parking to encourage people to go. I think we need to really, if we're going to go down this road, we need, as a council, need to be prepared to have property purchased or figure out a design where it's going to go before we even put any money into this. I think it would be a great idea, but I think we're right now a little premature. I don't want to spend council money or town money on something that's insignificant. If we're going to do this, I would like to see it as a major event, but we don't have the spot to put it. We can't put it by the spray park. We can't put it, there's nowhere downtown to put it. So I think we need to table this for a little bit until we figure out, instead of putting the cart before the horse, we gotta get our heads wrapped around exactly what we're looking at.
Counselor Musker?
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm with Councillor Phillips on this one. I think we need to get a feel from the community on whether there's an appetite for this. Between now and then, we're just kind of guessing. So I think it needs to start with some public engagement, and we can hear if there's an appetite for it and get some suggestions of what the community might want that to look like.
Thank you. Counselor Chappell?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm in agreement with both Councillor Whisker and Councillor Phillips. I think we need to hear what the public say, because if they throw a roadblock and say, hey, we don't want to spend any money on it, that becomes a whole different story. So I think it's critical that we have the right person in place that does the open house or the engagement with the public, and I think in this case Laura has talked about getting professionally to do it. To me, I think that's a good starting point, and then we go from there. Just get a gut feeling for what the community is looking for, and if in fact they're looking for anything or something.
Thank you. Counselor Phillips?
Thank you. Just something notable to add is, on what Councillor Auld had talked about, is perhaps with the public engagement, we can have possible locations already sourced out, and that will be part of the public engagement, saying here's some potential locations, and maybe the public might have a potential location that we haven't thought about. That's something that can also be brought up during the public engagement. So, you know, to alleviate some of Councillor Auld's concerns, maybe that's something that can be brought along with a public consultation, so that at least we have some options. And as Councillor Shippold said, we need to talk to the public and see what they believe and what they think and what their ideas are, because 6,000 ideas are better than 6 or 7 ideas around the table.
Agreed. Thank you. Counselor Hutchinson?
When we were at the EDA conference, there was one of the speakers talking about the perfect pitch, and of course it was revolving around economic development, but part of this is the tourism attraction part of it, which leads to economic development. And I guess maybe I'm thinking of it in a bigger picture where so to put it out to the public right now and say, this is what we want to do, and you're going to hear $200,000, and it's going to be quite possibly a negative reaction from people. So if we're engaging the public, I would like to, ensure that it's describing or talking about the whole plan, which, it's more than just taking the pictures. It's adding the pitch and the branding to our town, and giving the vision of the municipality to grow, and not just, saying, what's your idea? Do you want it or don't you want it? So, I'm not opposed to putting it out to the public at all. I think it's a great idea. I don't know what that looks like, and maybe we'd be looking at staff to figure out what that looks like.
Thank you. Councillor Phillips, go ahead. Okay, thank you. I think for myself, I agree, the public participation is a huge thing. I think it was mentioned in here, and I think it's a good idea to have a larger conversation about it, and I'm not sure if service level is the best place to have that. But it is kind of that cart and horse, because it's nice to have the public engagement first, then potentially talk about it at service level, where we can have a much broader discussion and, where we really want to go with it. But then it's also, like Councillor Hutchinson had just said, it's getting that information out about why we want to do it and what the big picture is. But we haven't had that conversation yet. If that doesn't happen till service level, then where do we go from there? So for myself, I'm just wondering if we wait till service level first, have a bigger discussion, and then bring it for public input. Just myself thinking there. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to add? Councillor Hutchinson.
Thank you. I guess just from our conversation, does admin have, if we said we want to go in the direction of public participation, but whatever would be put forward before it went out to the public would be brought back to council anyways. But I just, to ensure, do you have kind of an idea of the thoughts and where we're going to?
No, that's why
Nope.
we're here.
I was hoping you could read between the lines to figure it out.
So Deputy Mayor, that's really why we brought it. It's in council strategic plan, and administration doesn't know what you're envisioning as a council for a landmark. So that's why we're bringing it forward to you today, because council has a few things going on right now. You're going to be reviewing your strategic plan. That's coming. That report's coming to, I think it's the next council meeting. If council wants to embark and do another strategic plan with the long-term vision, where this would fit into that, or does council want to proceed with this project right now and go through public engagement, or does it require a rethink of council, because council put it into their strategic plan previously, obviously, but now that things are shifted and moved a bit and looking at a bigger strategic plan, do you want to rethink the whole project in the future?
Great. Thank you, Mr. Kraus. Councillor Musker?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I don't think there's any hurry on this, so I'm willing to punt it to strategic, or the service level meeting in the fall.
Councillor Hutchinson?
I would be more in favor of adding this into a strategic planning session. Again, if we're looking at long-term vision, how does it fit in, and what is our vision, as opposed to waiting until service level? Of course, we can do it at a strategic planning meeting, and then identify, maybe have a little more clarification on, is it going to be do we want a 30-foot something, or is it going to be a 3-foot something? We would look at those kind of things at strategic planning session, and then that would be brought forward to service level to take it to the next level. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Phillips?
Thank you. To kind of answer administration's question a little bit, once upon a time we had the water tower, which was an iconic symbol. When people, not just from Rocky, but from other communities, saw the water tower, whether it be in pictures or media or print, they immediately saw that thing and they're like, that's Rocky Mountain House. We know where that is. So what we're looking at is something to replace the water tower, whatever that may be, whatever form or shape that may take. That's what we're looking, is something that can easily be identified as Rocky Mountain House, where people want to come, see it, take their pictures in front of it, share on social media, which again promotes our community and our interests if people are going back to their communities and sharing icons of Rocky Mountain House. Councillor Hutchinson's comment of, can this be something that can be branded into Rocky Mountain House? Maybe it is. Maybe it's something that becomes a trademark like our, Where Adventure Begins logo. I'm not sure what that will look like, but it's not something we need to jump in fast and hard. I think it's something we need to look at and do it right. Whether it goes to service level, I would like to see it go to a strategic planning session for sure. But whatever component we do of this, we need to have public engagement. There's no question that we have to have the public's input. And the rationale is why we're doing it. Like, we're doing this to promote the community, promote the area, promote tourism, bring people to our area, and potentially have people move to our area because they came here and spent a weekend here. So that's the reasoning behind it. Just a little bit of background.
Thank you. Do we have any further discussion on this? Okay, so I'm thinking what we're hearing. Oh, Councillor Hutchinson, do you have something to add?
Yes, just for clarity, so we have the RFD for strategic planning and long-term vision on our next agenda, but we have no date or anything set for a session. Is that correct?
Yep, so what council has asked to amend is to bring back costs for a strategic planning session. That is scheduled for, I believe it's the May 21st meeting. But we can move it to the May 21st meeting if the report's ready. And really, council in that discussion is the magnitude that you want to take your strategic planning to. So in that report, we're providing you costs for public engagement portion to strategic planning, for example. I don't know where I'm getting here, but council hasn't approved that strategic planning session yet. So you can't really send this to strategic planning until you approve the strategic planning session. I think this is what I'm at. So you could postpone this report, I guess, until you, to the next meeting, so it's in conjunction with that. And you can combine it together.
Councillor Hutchinson.
So we would have to do a notice of motion to postpone this?
No,
Or
it'd
we
just
can
be a motion that
just-
council postpone the landmark report to the May 21st meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Hutchinson, your latest one, did you want to make a motion?
Okay. Okay, that I would make the motion to postpone the town landmark report until after the strategic planning session, is that what you said? To the May 21st meeting.
Perfect, thank you. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed, that is carried. Thank you. Okay, so now we are moving on to 7.2, an RFD public participation policy. Ms. Button.
Hi,
Hi.
thanks for allowing me to take up so much of your time today. Your public participation policy is due for review, so that's why it's in your agenda package today, because it is coming before you for review. Administration had a look at it and said, ooh, when provincial legislation came in and said, thou shalt have a public participation policy, many municipalities across Alberta took the template from Alberta Munis and put it in place. And so that's what we have, that's what many municipalities still use. Others, as they come due, are revising them a little bit to reflect wise practice and current practice. So that's why administration has offered some suggestions to council that while you're reviewing it, if you'd like to also make some changes to it, obviously it's a great time. Here are some suggestions for you, and if you have any others, administration's absolutely open to hearing them. The two, I guess, main ones that I've offered as suggestions for your consideration, one is in the policy statement. The initial policy statement was very legalese, legislation heavy. It said, we're here, we have this policy to meet legislation. And we do, but we also have the policy to meet the public's expectation of engagement. So that is a fairly revamped policy statement for your consideration. And the other aspect that's fairly significant change is under responsibilities. So there's council responsibilities, there's administration responsibilities, and we're suggesting that you consider a community member responsibility because administration and council can be doing everything they can, but if the public aren't taking responsibility to engage and to participate, then it kind of falls apart. And so we obviously can't tell them what to do, but we can certainly recommend that they should find the public participation opportunities, participate in them, keep themselves informed. And so those are the two main changes that administration has presented. I realized as I was turning the page, I missed one. Under guidelines and policy procedures is an acknowledgement that says we will consider your feedback, but public feedback is just one of the many pillars that council has to weigh. And that existed in our previous policy, but this kind of spells it out a little clearer. And I've noticed those municipalities that have revised their policies have included something about it's a shared responsibility of council, admin, and public, as well as, and it's not the only decision-making factor. It's not, much like your service level document that has all the pillars of the community, the finance, the social, the engagement. Public participation is but one, or public feedback input is but one of those pillars, and that's why you guys are in the hot seats to make those decisions. But the policy reflects that you will consider their engagement whenever feasible and responsibly.
Perfect, thank you.
But I look forward to council's thoughts and discussion.
Sounds really good. So, does anyone have anything to add? Councillor Schiffel?
Yes, Deputy Mayor, thank you. I have a comment and a question, so I'll ask my question first, and that is to do under recommended statement. That's on page 4 of 6 or 15 on,
Okay.
you're looking at them all. And it has the words in there, allocated and the appropriate level of public participation undertaken. And I have a question about the word appropriate level, because that leaves it to interpretation what that would mean in that statement. And so I'm just wondering if, even if you have it on that, what
Yeah.
that word means. This leaves it open for interpretation. That could be different.
Sure. So that's where we would refer to the schedules. So the same as our old policy that had type 1, type 2, and type 3 types of levels of engagement, and whether they are active or direct, consultative. So, and how does council choose what is the level? What is the appropriate level is based on the bullet points underneath in terms of, is this a routine decision part of operations? Well, we don't need to do engagement, we just need to inform. If it's a large project like a notable landmark with a significant budget implication, then you would be up on the higher end of the scale. And so the updated policy just has the same type of thing, but using just different language. Rather than type 1, type 2, the language is descriptive, so inform, consult, involve, and empower. So that would be the appropriate level. And maybe in here we need to reference the schedules, but It is subjective, absolutely, but we do have some criteria underneath for which level, depending on what decision council has before them.
Okay, so I'm going to try this again.
Okay.
Okay, so Joe Public out there may think that it should be at a different level than what we anticipate. And with that word in there, it just leaves room for interpretation. And I'm just not sure that that's the right word, because if we leave it so it could be open to discretion of public versus council, well, you said that you're going to do this in an appropriate way, but I don't think you did. Does it leave it for arguments? I guess I just question the word overall. So my comment on the policy is I think the changes that are recommended are very good.
Sure.
That was the only question when I read it that I thought leaves it open to interpretation, and I'm not sure that that's the right word in there, but if you think it is, then we can leave it, but that's where I'm at.
Without having sat with that thought for very long, maybe the answer is appropriate to the spectrum of public engagement. And I didn't make up these words. These are like the spectrum. There's a lot of them out there. I know there's been some email correspondence. Councillor Hutchison has, I think council was included on it, looking for the collaboration tier that exists in our existing policy. I feel it's reflected in my proposed policy, but if you want to add that tier, it absolutely can. But it's appropriate based on what the decision you have. And I don't know how I would make it more clear to a member of the public that the location of a stop sign is a routine operation decision, and we're not going to put out a full survey and meal deal about that. So maybe Mr. Kraus can help me with some words, because I just
Maybe it just needs to be worded what council thinks is the appropriate public engagement for the item being discussed. I mean, if we just go back to our previous conversation with the landmark, I mean, council has the full authority just to determine a landmark, and that would fall under inform. Or does council want to consult on it, or do you want to involve the public, or do you want to empower the public and they actually pick that? So, you know, that's one topic, for example, that can be one of the 4 different levels of engagement. So it's what council thinks is appropriate for the issue. If that, does that assist in that wording?
I think just those couple words would probably make a difference in terms of interpretation of what that word means. It takes it away because then it gives it to council. I think that makes sense.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything else to add for this? Councillor Musker.
Thank you. Just a comment. I really appreciate how you've built this policy out. Significant improvement.
Thanks. Well, and it's with the benefit of other municipalities who've done this work already, and Alberta Municipal Affairs has quite a substantial toolkit for councils to consider public input. So I had help, is what I'm trying to say, but thank you.
Councillor Auld.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Along with Councillor Musker, I agree. I like the way this is worded. I always had an issue with whenever we refer to stakeholders. To me, stakeholders was always, this outfit has the money, they're a stakeholder, they're the only ones we talk to. Having it brought back to all community members, I think it makes a huge difference, and it acknowledges that everybody's included in these decisions. So I really like the way you worded this up.
Thank you, Councillor Auld. That is arising from some pretty substantial literature about public engagement and inclusiveness, largely in the wake of reconciliation about stakeholder does not translate well across all groups, but community members very much does. And so as I was pulling this together, I thought, oh, this is a good time to implement that language change here.
Councillor Phillips.
If there's no further discussion, I was prepared to make a motion.
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion that council ask administration to rise and report the public participation policy to the May 21st regular council meeting as amended.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call it to a vote. Those in favor? and none opposed, and that is carried. Thank you.
I guess I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Ms. Button.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a flip here. So we're going to move to 7.4, Energy Grant Report, and then we will go to 7.3 afterwards. Okay, so Mr. Kraus, if you'd like to start, please.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor, but Mr. Amends will lead this for council.
That sounds good, thank you.
Good afternoon, Deputy Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, as I was preparing these reports, I too was thinking I would present the grant information before getting into the recreation or the manager program. So thanks for making that change. So I'll walk you through my report. Again, it was at Council's request that we provide a report on possible energy efficiency grants that are available. So if we go to the comments section, we all know that energy efficiency is a crucial aspect of sustainable development, offering numerous benefits such as cost savings, reduced environmental impact, and enhanced resilience to climate change. As I was looking at the various options out there and doing my Google searches and of what energy programs out there, I basically divide into two. One is our Alberta programs, and then what's available federally. And then thirdly, there is the Green Municipal Fund, which is managed by FCM, right? So I can just walk you through some of those. The Alberta Energy Efficiency Grants, there's several. The Alberta Municipal Solar Program, Alberta Indigenous Solar Program, so there's those types of things. And then what we're familiar with mostly here in Alberta is the Municipal Climate Change Action Center. And they've got the MCCAC currently has 3 programs that they're providing funding for. One was the Roving Energy Manager Program, which I'll speak to in my next report, the same with the Energy Manager, and then the Community Energy Conservation Program. So I've provided a little bit of detail of what the CEC program, and it provides financial rebates to help identify energy saving opportunities and implement retrofit projects. The municipality, we actually accessed a program similar to this when we did the combined heat and power units at the pool. It was called the REC program at that time. Same program, just different name coming about. And then I've itemized some of the deadlines. It's just opened, this program. Again, we try to keep our eyes out for different grant opportunities. This was just applications opened on April 29th. They're accepting applications to March of 2026. So a couple of years, either that or until they fully spent the money that they have. And I believe it's about $18 million is what the province has put in the pool of money. So it will be a competitive program. The rebate rates, again, for energy audits, they'll fund up to 50% pre-GST energy audits per facility to a maximum of $7,500. We actually accessed that previously when we did the audit for the pool HVAC program. We did access that grant. Retrofit projects up to 50% of project costs, and then retrofit bonus. So if you're successful in getting one, you get an extra bonus if you actually move ahead with the project. Maximum funding is $500,000 per municipality. And additional information, I did include the links if council wanted to dive deep into what that project was all about. I did include in your package sort of the energy community energy conservation program guidebook, which breaks it all down in more detail. From the federal energy efficiency grants, there's several. The Canada Greener Homes grant, that's up to $5,000 to homeowners, not really relevant to on a larger scale for municipalities. The Eco Energy Retrofit, again, is dealing with home improvements. Again, the Canadian Agriculture Partnership, again, offer agriculture producers some energy efficiency grant monies, but again, not specific to municipal projects. The Green Municipal Fund, the GFM, administered by the Federation of Canadian Municipalities in partnership with the Government of Canada. It supports municipal initiatives that lead to cleaner air, cleaner water, reduced greenhouse gas emissions, and smarter infrastructure investments. And again, speaks to the purpose to provide funding and resources for municipalities across Canada for sustainable initiatives. Funding, there's grants, loans, technical assistance are available. I didn't break that down because each of their programs listed below, the grant programs, the capital projects for retrofits, the new sustainable construction, each of them comes with a little different how they structure the rebates. But in the end, those are the two, the MCCAC Community Energy Conservation Program, and then the greenhouse, green fund, the Green Municipal Fund, sorry, are the two programs that if we had projects that were shovel-ready, but at this point, we don't, right? We haven't identified, the projects that we've had and we've undertaken in the last couple of years, we've accessed those. Unfortunately, the HVAC at the pool was Green and Inclusive Buildings grant. We were unsuccessful in getting that, but these grants weren't available when we applied for those. So again, it's the timing of when the governments and the organizations announce these grants. And, both of these that are there right now, they're open, available, but they have you've got time. Again, making sure that we understand what our needs are, where we can target some of potential projects that could access this types of grant funding. So again, I did, at the end of my report, so some of the projects that have been completed in the past few years, we had the energy efficient lighting at the arena and aquatic center, they've all gone to LED or energy efficient lighting. The CHP units and high efficiency boilers at the aquatic center, as I mentioned. The new ice plant, unfortunately at that time, there was no grants available. And I came to council asking for that $1.5 million to replace that structure, and we did. And then the HVAC replacement project at the aquatic center, we were successful in getting that other program. It'd be nice if we could retrofit, apply, or not retrofit, retroactively apply for some of these grants, but we can't. So unless council has some other specific questions related to that, that's sort of what I've been able to ascertain in doing a little bit of research.
Thank you for the work that you've done on this. I'll go to Councillor Auld first and then Councillor Phillips after.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I'm not sure, Wes, if you can answer this or not, and reading this, I've been flip-flopping back and forth whether we could utilize this or not. Most of the grants are for retrofit and for homes and whatnot, but the GMF grant does have capital project construction of new sustainable municipal community buildings. Would that qualify for a new waste treatment plant? Like, would we be able to utilize that somehow?
I would have to
that
go
project?
into the terms of that specific grant. I don't know.
Sure. I didn't, just the way everything was reading, I didn't think so, but I just tried to figure it out.
Typically, the project's already started and going, we can't apply for the grant. It's generally one of the criteria with the federal government.
That's unfortunate because they want everything shovel-ready, so you're sitting there waiting for them, but if you already start, then you can't apply.
Yeah, and that's pretty typical of the federal government and a lot of provincial grants, actually, is they'll announce the grants and you have to have that application in within 3 months. So really what we try to do, or what we should be doing more often, is actually being ahead of that and getting these projects to like a preliminary design stage, so when these grants come out, then we can just pull it off the shelf and apply. But that's really strategic planning, I guess, in that type, and putting money up front. So, but that's the basis of it. And council's also got to remember, we're also doing the building assessments right now, and that's a project that council wanted, and the consultants are actually going through all our buildings now. You know, and maybe something will come up through that assessment that we might want to look at and applying in these.
Yeah. Councillor Phillips?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a quick question, and I'm not sure if you can even answer this right now, but in our 3 to 5, I know we have our 10-year capital projects plan, but are there any projects in the next 3 years or 5 years that could potentially fall under this, that we could maybe pull back and try and take advantage of these grants while they're still in place? Is there any projects that we could potentially pull ahead and?
I had a look at our 10-year capital plan, and right now I didn't identify any specific project that, say it's 5 years out, but do we pull that ahead because there's a potential grant available? I'm hopeful, as Mr. Kraus has said, we'll see what comes out of our
Okay.
town facility assessments. We're assessing 12 different buildings, and part of that will have an energy component to those assessments, so.
One project that would rise to the surface right away is this building.
That's what I was just going to
Yeah.
ask.
But council, I mean, we have to decide what we're doing here too. If we're
Mhm.
building new, which still can fall under the grants,
Mhm.
retrofitting this building, which would still fall under the grants.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to ask if a new build for the town hall could maybe fall under something like this.
Yeah.
Councillor Hutchinson?
Thank you. I just, it kind of goes right back to the visioning and looking farther than a 10-year capital plan for the community. And like CEO Kraus had said, you know, there's a lot of municipalities that have those ideas and those plans are sitting on the shelf. And instead of waiting to see what comes available, they've got them on the shelf and they're ready. It doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, you're putting shovels in the ground today, but at least having that vision of what do we see? Is this building going to happen? A new building, is it going to happen within the next X amount of years? And having everything in place so that that window of opportunity is there for us. But again, that kind of ties back into strategic planning and visioning.
Actually, it ties into my next report.
Well, do we have any further discussion on this report? Otherwise, I am looking for a motion. Councillor Phillips?
Thank you. I'll make a motion that we accept the energy efficient grants report as information.
Councillor Hutchinson?
Do we want to just accept it for information, or do we want to, again, maybe postpone this one until after the assessment review is done? I'm thinking on the lines of there may be possibly a building that would fit solar panels. So, yeah.
Councillor Phillips?
I mean, my thoughts is, I mean, we can accept this report for information for now. Once we get the report back on the buildings assessments, this will become part of that topic and that discussion. That's just my thoughts.
Councillor Hutchinson?
Is that the way it would work? Because I just do remember being corrected at a previous meeting about if we accept for information, then it's done and gone and we never see it again. So I would just like clarity on that, please.
If council accepts it for information, administration takes that as a direction that it's gone. I mean, we're not obligated or instructed to bring it back.
Councillor Phillips?
Okay, then I would like to amend my motion. Just amend my motion to postpone this until we have the building assessment report. Postpone this discussion until we have the building assessment report.
That is scheduled to come back to council in September. The consultants have to the end of August, and they're well on their way, so to have that report and do a presentation probably that early in September to council.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will call that to a vote. Those in favor? Oh, Councillor Hutchinson, do you have something to add?
I'm just on the fence with that, because if we just wait until then, I mean, maybe if we keep it as still, the resolution saying possible projects that would qualify, just because what if something came up between now and that assessment? That still leaves it open, and we can have that discussion when the assessment's done, but at least we've got something in place in case Wes has nothing to do and finds something.
Let me talk about the next program.
The next project.
I mean, thank you. To me, it's clear we don't have any projects right now that are ready to go. And the next stage in this is going to be in September when we have that report. And I think that's when we need to discuss this again. I don't foresee any magical capital project or capital dollars coming between now and September. So I think it's appropriate that we could just wait till September.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hutchinson.
I guess I'm thinking on the GMF grant, possibly a study for new construction or the retrofit of this building, depending on where we go with that. So if we're putting it off until September, I don't know, are we having any more conversations on what we're doing with the town hall? Or we just have that put on the back burner too?
So, Deputy Mayor, so where council's at with the town hall is that we've engaged a facilitator to engage nonprofit groups to see if they would want to be part of a new facility. That process is ongoing right now, and I believe we have the end of May, it's complete. Then we'd bring it back to council for some direction of where you want to go on the whole project.
So would it be appropriate if we leave Councillor Phillips' motion as is when it comes to September and reviewing the asset report? If the town hall comes to us before then, is this still something we can discuss at the same time? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Marty.
You're welcome. Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Does anyone need it resaid? Councillor Phillips, please.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Councillor Musker. My motion is to postpone the energy efficient grant report until we have the September report for the asset management.
Okay, thank you for the motion. So any further discussion on this motion? So I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed. That is carried. Thank you. Okay, so now we will go to what was 7.3, Municipal Energy Manager Program. Mr. Ament.
Okay, continue on now. So again, council requested a report related to the feasibility of the municipal energy management manager position, as there's possible funding through the MCCAC. So this report will speak to the municipal energy manager position that's available. MCCA also had a roving municipal energy manager program. Unfortunately, that just ended April 26th. So that's no longer available. And then I did include in my report the Municipal Energy Champion Program, which was from 2020. But I'll speak a little bit about the Energy Manager Program itself. So it's designed to help municipalities establish a dedicated energy management position within their organization. These energy managers can play a critical role in leading energy efficiency initiatives, identifying opportunities, and implementing sustainable practices across the municipal facilities and operations. So some of the key components of the program: the energy management planning, project implementations, technical assistance with their knowledge, and data analysis and reporting. So the program is accepting applications for expression of interest until March of 2026. So again, it's open, it's accepting applications. And I provided more information specifically on the Energy Manager Program in the guidebook that was attached to you, the council package. The Municipal Energy Champion Program that was done in 2020, the government at that time also announced the Energy Manager Program, but they also offered, for those that didn't want to take the deep dive into hiring a full-time energy manager, to having an energy champion. And we did participate in that. Our facility maintenance manager, Mr. Laird, did go through that program. It was a 6-month program, online training and interacting with the people at MCCAC, took them through the program. And so he undertook that program with all of its benefits. The challenge is Gord is so busy that he hasn't really had time to delve so deeply into this, right? We understand we have those conversations as we're looking at projects that are upcoming and how best, and we're watching out for these grant programs. But when it comes to the actual Municipal Energy Manager Program, it's there. In the financial section of my report here, MCCAC will provide funding in year 1 up to 80% of the MEM salary, up to a maximum $80,000 per year. And then if you're successful, up to $20,000 in rebates to support implementing some of the initiatives that they would come up with. In year 2, it's a 40% of the salary, up to a maximum of $40,000 a year. And then if you're in that, they would provide up to $40,000 in rebates to support the initiatives that have come up through the manager program. So there's 2 years of funding. It's contingent on the municipality meeting. You can apply for year 2 without going through year 1. But and we sort of have a net cost range, when you think of the possible funding of up to $80,000, it's probably in that $18,000 to $20,000 would be our net deficit for a full-time position. And that would require a budget, allocation, which we don't have in the 2024 budget. That would be something that would have an impact in 2025 budget. But council wanted to go down that route, we certainly could work on submitting an expression of interest for or an application, but that would be for council discussion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Schipul.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the roving program would have been perfect. Unfortunately, it's not available. So I look at this program now, and I guess my question to administration is, you're talking a full-time position, and we got 12 buildings I heard earlier. Is that an overkill position? If we were to look at full-time, it is up to a maximum of 80,000. So can we apply for a, say, 0.5 position? Or I would like to know what administration's idea is of that position and the amount of hours it would take in terms of, is it full-time? It's a 2-year program funded basically fully on the first year, partially on the second year. Is it an ongoing program that we'll then have to maintain long-term after? So there's a few questions there.
I'm scaring you. I would see benefit right now, as I mentioned. I know that Mr. Laird has gone through the Municipality Champion Program. His workload right now doesn't allow him the time to fully dive into what would require of the energy manager. I think if we build on the information we're going to get out of our facility reviews that are being done right now, I could see this person taking that information and taking it to the next level and coming up with, here's the initiatives. And then they would also be responsible for finding the grant programs and help figure out how we're going to fund those types of initiatives. So I could see it potentially being a 1 year. I don't know if year two. It doesn't say you have to participate in year two. I think taking the information that we're gonna get out of our asset management plan for our facilities and, putting that knowledge and information together as to helping us build our, 10-year, 15, the report we're asking is for 5-year, 10-year, 20-year, information on each of our facilities. So what is the lifespan of some of our current facilities? And then if there's things that we can do energy-wise to improve or cut our costs, and again, they're looking at how do you cut greenhouse gas emissions? And what does that mean? Looking at solar, what is the return on investment of solar, as an example? Again, that's something that an energy manager can dive into that kind of information and really give it, that's his sole focus would be. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, you did.
Yeah.
Thank you. So then the next part of that is funding. They cover 80% of the wage, and not only is there a wage, but there's also other costs relative to that wage. Has administration looked at what a overall cost would be if we did look at a position and where the money would come from?
Again, that was, I think, Ms. Quinlan provided the $18,000 to $20,000 would be offset. I don't know exactly the amount when I look at what we currently pay our existing managers, where that fits in with what the funding we could get. And, relied on Betty. I'll let Mr.
Sure.
Krause speak to that.
Sure, so if it's a one-term position, that position wouldn't be qualified to go onto our benefit plan or the pension plan. So those costs wouldn't be included in it, 'cause it'd be just a one-term position. So I think Ms. Quinlan provided a cost of $18,000 to $20,000 to the municipality with that in consideration for a one-year term.
So if the wages, we get 80%.
Councillor Schiffel, just your light, please.
Okay.
If you could turn it on.
Oh,
There we go.
Sorry, thank
It's
you.
okay.
So if it's paying 80% of the wage and the wage is 80,000, that's 16,000 basically that we'd have to pick up on the wage. Then there's other costs involved in that.
Oh.
In terms of
Oh, yep,
desk
there's.
and other things. So I appreciate the number that you've.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry, I thought you were talking strictly wage or that. No, there's other costs involved. I mean, there's computers, there's a desk and so forth. But for one-year term, I mean, we would probably utilize surplus desks or something like that. We wouldn't go out and buy new desks and computers for that. Because we rotate computers out depending on usage and so forth, so there would be some cost. I'm not saying no cost, but I would think it'd be on the minimal side.
You're okay, Councillor Schiffel? I'll go to Councillor Alden and Councillor Musker after.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Not so much a question, but comments. We've kind of done this to ourselves as far as we've cut all of the extra fat as far as employees and positions, and we're relying on our existing staff to pick up the slack on all this. What you were mentioning earlier as far as Gord, he's took the program and has had no time to actually delve into it and see some results from that. So I definitely see a value in having somebody in that position that can help us get to that 10-year long-term vision for where we're going, have that person look after finding the grants. Lots of this program looks like it's for the smaller municipalities, it could be short term. So I definitely think there's a value in having somebody that actually can focus on it instead of sending another manager to take on more workload that they don't have time to do right now. So I think it's definitely something we need to look at and bring back.
Thank you. Councillor Musker.
Thank you. Both these reports are excellent. Thank you for the time and effort you put into this. In reading the description of the Municipal Energy Manager Program, it seems to me that we're already checking a lot of the boxes with our existing staff. Now, I agree with Councillor Auld that maybe we're spreading our people too thin. But the other side of that is, I'm not sure now is the time that we would see value in this. So, there's just too many, there's more things to consider than just another individual on the payroll and their wage. And so I would, I submit these comments respectfully, and I would encourage the council to convince me otherwise, but I'm not seeing it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hutchinson.
Thank you. I guess where my thoughts go, just with what Wes had said earlier on, we're getting the asset, what was it called again, sorry? Facility life cycle assessment being done. So we get this report back, and then what? Is it another report or study that gets put on the shelf? Because we don't have any staff at this moment that would, or I don't think there is, I shouldn't speak for staff, but what are we doing with the information that we get back? And, a subsidized program like this, to pay 18, 20,000 out of our own pocket to actually follow through with a study that's been done and implement whatever cost savings on top of having the ability to find maybe some grant funding on top of it. I just think it's a good use of a relatively small amount of money that we could get a lot of benefit from.
Thank you. Councillor Phillips.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I look at this from a viewpoint of it's a position that we can get 80% of the salary paid for, and even if we had to pay I'm just going to use devil's advocate, and we had to pay $20,000 of that salary, there's up to $20,000 in rebates we can get by applying for different projects. And then I also look at the savings of whatever project we put in place is going to create a savings of power or gas or heat or light or something. It's going to create a savings in that aspect. So this, to me, if we implement this program, we're looking at probably a net wash from a cost point of view. And best case scenario, we're looking at a net plus. We're going to actually save more money on costs and heat and light than this program is actually going to cost. So I do see the potential to have a net surplus out of this as opposed to a net deficit.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any further discussion? Councillor Auld.
Thank you. The only other thing I was going to say is that I just don't want this assessment to come back and be a dust collector. I want to be able to move forward with recommendations. I want to be able to increase the lifespan of our buildings. I want to be able to utilize whatever cost savings we can. And if we get the report and we put it on the shelf because we don't have time to look at it and how to deal with it, and everybody's overwhelmed with the day-to-day stuff, if we can do this as a wash on basically cost, I am not seeing a downside to it.
Thank you. Mr. Ament.
Just one last comment on the facility assessment that's being done. I'm anticipating that a lot of the things that are going to come out of that may identify things that need to be done to these facilities that are not necessarily energy efficiency savings. They may identify other things, whether it's structural or, they're taking a deep dive into everything. Yeah, energy is a part of it, but I'm anticipating once you see that report in detail for each of the facilities, there may be things identified that need to be done to bring these facilities to extend their life, right? That may not necessarily be strictly energy efficiency. We'll certainly lean towards that because there's grants available, right? But
Sure.
just wanted to make that comment.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Phillips.
And thank you, Wes, for that comment, because that puts an even bigger lens on this project, because now the report is looking at these buildings from a pure lifespan. How can we extend the lifespan of these buildings? How can we best maintain them, best take care of them? But it's not necessarily looking at it from the lens of how can we make them more energy efficient while we're doing that, which to me, this project manager would be looking at it from that lens. We've got this report and it says we need to do A, B, and C to this building, but maybe we can do A, B, C, and D. And D will be covered by a grant that this person applies for and gets for us, and we get a new energy efficient building that wouldn't have happened if we didn't have this person in place. Just food for thought.
Councillor Musker.
Thank you. So I think a lot hinges on getting this, this asset review back, right? And then some of these other things will come into play. So can we take that in consideration rather than moving forward like now? That when are we expecting that report? September?
Yes. Yeah, they have till the end of August to put together, they'll be presenting to council. Sorry. They'll be presenting to council in the first part of September.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
I will point out too that, you know, this program has just opened and they're accepting applications till 2026. So you've got a couple of years. It's one of those, if it's oversubscribed right now, you're waiting a year, there might not be funds available yet anymore. But again, waiting till the end of the summer to get this other report and then making a decision, do we move forward with the energy manager? Yeah, we're looking at, you know, what's that mean for the rest of 2024's budget? You know, consideration for 2025 budget can be part of that budget discussion going forward.
Right. Councillor Hutchinson.
Thank you. I thought in some of the research I did that typically these fill up faster than not. So that's, you know, my feelings on putting in the letter of proposal or whatever it was called there, and doing it sooner than later, just given it's taking advantage of the funding that is available.
Thank you. Do we have any further, Councillor Hutchinson.
No, I was just going to say, if there was no further discussion, I would look to put the motion forward that council apply for the program and provide a detailed report on the MEM program, including budget implications, organizational impact, and workload.
Thank you for your motion. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. That was really good discussion, actually. That was good. Thanks. So I just wanted to go around and ask, so before we move on to 7.5, should we do a short 10-minute break? Okay, so we'll go ahead and take a break for 10 minutes now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So we are back from our short recess. So we are moving forward on to 7.5, Council Activity and Committee Reports Discussion. So this is something that's new, that's been added, you know, in the past when it comes to council reports, we kind of gloss over it and kind of move quickly onwards. And so my idea with this 7.5 is maybe this is the time where if someone has questions about what they've seen in someone's report, maybe now is the time to ask and get into those conversations. Am I correct with that, Mr. Kraus, with the intention of this?
Deputy Mayor, so this is actually from the request of Councillor Shippled,
Oh,
who
okay.
wanted a discussion. It comes, if you go back to the minutes of the previous meeting,
Oh, okay.
Councillor Shippled wanted a discussion on committee or council's activity and committee reports.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Schiffel.
Why I brought it forward was there's a discrepancy in the reporting that we get from councillors around the table. So I spend hours doing it, but if it's not necessary, then I would prefer not to have to do it and/or do it to a lesser amount. And so the question was, what do we anticipate to get out of our personal councillor reports? More information or less information, because there's such a variety of what we're getting out there right now. And today we have those reports on our agenda, so if you look at them, you'll see that there's significant difference. So the question I have is, if I can lessen my workload, I'll gladly do that. And so my question to Mr. Kraus, is it anywhere covered off in any of our documentation as a councillor where we have to provide those reports, and to what information has to be provided? Like, what controls what we do? Is it just personal preference, or is it, how does it happen? Because if I can lessen my workload, I most certainly want to go there.
Mr. Kraus.
So I'll give you the legislative answer, Councillor Deputy Mayor. So under council's procedural bylaw, council's established that you're required to put forward a committee report at every GPC. It doesn't specify length, detail, or anything like that. That's really at council's discretion.
So that's for like actual committee, so if a person.
Committee and activity, yeah.
If
So-
if a person's writing down, like a regular council meeting, is it necessary to delve into like all that information as to what was discussed within that meeting?
No, so the whole purpose of it is each councillor sits on different committees. It's the opportunity for you to come back with all of council and give updates of what happened on the committee and anything that council as a whole should know. That's the purpose of it. And how council wants to achieve that is up to council.
I'll just move to Councillor Alt.
Just a comment. Some are quite lengthy because of the amount of committees you guys are on. Like just pulling up Councillor Hutchinson's, she's on 14 different committees. With my business and my life right now, I don't have the time to commit to that many meetings. And the ones I am on, they haven't met in a long time. So my reports are pretty much standard council meeting and GPC meeting. I do enjoy, like I read through Tina's, I read through everybody's. Tina goes, and yourself go way overboard as far as I'm concerned. But if you have the time to do it, it's good information. Like Tina's is pages long. So, but it's good. She always brings back a lot of good information for it. Does she need to? I don't think so. But anyway, I enjoy reading them, and I think it was designed for the public to say, I can't remember, was it three terms or 2 terms ago? 2 terms that they brought this in. But I feel it's up to the councillor how much you're gonna write and how much you wanna submit.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Thank you. I see it as a tool to let the public know, or for the public to be aware of what we are doing. And, I appreciate that Dave likes reading my reports, but I feel obligated as a counselor that I should be I'll use the word transparent, even though I don't like that word, but here, average Joe public, this is what we do. And some of us do more, some of us do less, depending on where you are in your life. I think the big thing with adding it to the GPC meeting was to allow us to have more time to actually speak on our reports, because I feel a lot of times we just get rushed through them. You know, I don't know what happened on the policing committee meeting. I don't know what happened at FCSS or wherever it might be. You know, we don't communicate a lot outside this room, so it gives us the opportunity to tell each other what is going on. You know, Marley's report, I had no idea that there was some program going on that she attended for the mayor. Like, and that's, to me, this is the opportunity, and I feel that we should, maybe we don't have to write so much in the report, but it needs to be communicated somehow amongst this room, amongst council, as to what we are doing. Because if I had to step in for land for an FCSS meeting, would I know what's going on? No. But we have our reports. We get to see and read that. But again, I would like to see more verbal communication on our reports.
Thank you. Councillor Auld?
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I do agree with Councillor Hutchinson that the public, if they're interested, it gives them a real easy, quick glance at what's going on. But I agree with Councillor Hutchinson that maybe this needs to be more of a verbal conversation. Like, what did happen at the policing committee? What is new? What is coming down the pipe, or the hospital board? Or if we don't need to write it all down, but I think if there's something that's important that's happened at one of our committees, then this is the time that we can reference back to the report and say, this is what's going on. So me personally, would do better for a verbal discussion about it, but again, I think it's up to each individual council.
Thank you. Councillor Schipel, does that kind of give you an idea?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
I guess where I'm at is either we give written reports or we give oral reports. Possibly a combination of both. I'm not sure. Like when I do my reports, I often think that there's things that I miss out of my report. And don't miss on purpose, but just after a while, how much information do you provide?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe verbal reporting may be the other option. I'm not sure. I guess what I'd like to see is everybody do a report up that's got some meat and potatoes to it versus nothing. Even if it's just minimal, just something. Just that there's a bit of effort goes in that. And I think that's what I'm looking for more than anything. So.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Musker?
Yes, thank you. So the bane of my existence is redundancy. So if we're doing these meetings on YouTube, that's available, right? For example, the library meeting minutes are available on the library website. I don't see a reason that I have to reiterate that. If somebody wants to find it, it's available. And that's what's in my report. Feel free to watch our YouTube video. Feel free to look at the library minutes. Yeah, I don't see the value in extended reports. I really don't.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hutchinson and then Councillor Auld.
The way I see it is if somebody looks at my report and I've got some of the highlights in a council meeting, also direct them to the YouTube channel, but they may not want to look at the YouTube channel, but they see in the report, oh, there was a delegation from whoever. That gives them the brief to look at it and say, oh, that's what's happening. Yes, I want to go further with it. So I guess I just think of it in a little bit different format.
Councillor Auld and then Councillor Musker.
Thank you. I agree with Councillor Musker. If all I've done is attend our actual council meetings, I am not going to go through there and lay it all out what we did and what we didn't do. It is YouTube, and people can look at it at their leisure. If any of my committees actually met, I wouldn't have a problem putting it on there, but I'm not going to go into detail on council meetings.
Councillor Musker?
Yes, thank you. Also, we have the agenda posted, so speaking to the delegation thing, somebody wants to pull that up and look, it's right there on the agenda, that a delegation, who it is, and also the attachments. I don't think that needs to be in a report.
Councillor Phillips?
Thank you. So, yeah, on my report, when it comes to the GPC meetings and the council meetings, I put live streamed because I'm under the impression that everything that happens in this meeting is live streamed and can be referred back at any time, any place, anywhere on the YouTube channel. So I definitely don't go into much depth when it comes to a GPC or council meeting. When it comes to my committee meetings, I just touch on the highlights of what happened in those committee meetings. A lot of what goes on in a committee meeting is not earth-shattering or sexy by any means. It's basic running those committees. But there is sometimes one or two tidbits that come out of those committee meetings, and that's what I highlight on my report. And then when I do go to a conference, like on this particular report, there's the EDA conference, I have a much longer report because we were there for a couple days, and showing which workshops I attended and what happened. So I kind of have a blend of all three. On these type of meetings, no, it's live streamed. But when I go to something out of town, it's a little more in depth. Committee meetings, I just touch on the highlights.
So I think what I'm hearing is there's really no right or wrong way to do it. It's really someone's preference, how much time they want to put into it, so. To move on from this, or do we just make a motion for information, or? Okay, so maybe at this point, unless there's more to add, I'm looking for a motion to, Councillor Schiffel.
Also make that motion, Deputy Mayor, and that would be to accept the discussion as information.
Okay, thank you for your motion. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed, and that is carried. Thank you. We don't have anything for correspondence for action today. Correspondence for information, we have 9.1 through to 9.7. Is there anything in there that someone would like to highlight or have any questions or want to bring forward, or otherwise I'm looking for a motion. Councillor Auld.
If there's no discussion, I would make a motion that we take 9.1 to 9.7 as information.
Thank you for your motion. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, we'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And unopposed, and that is carried. So moving on, we have 10.1 Mayor's report. She is not here today, so I'm thinking we can continue moving forward. So Council, oh, sorry, go ahead, Councillor Phillips.
Just going to make a motion to accept the mayor's report.
Oh,
as
please.
information.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion or any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? None opposed, and that is carried. So moving on to 10.2, council activity and committee reports. We will start with Councillor Auld. Anything you want to highlight in your report?
No, again, it was pretty slim.
Thank you. Okay, for myself, no, I don't really have anything to highlight unless someone's got any questions. Maybe the one thing that I will touch on, I did end up doing in the mayor's absence was a speech judging at Pioneer School, and I just want to say, like, I had so much fun doing that. It was really great to see the kids. Like, for myself, speaking publicly, I'm not a fan. So to see those kids get up there and they're going on and they're doing their thing, I was in awe of it. So I thought that was really great. But does anyone have any questions for me for discussion? Okay. Move on to Councillor Hutchinson. Anything you'd like to speak about or highlight in your report?
Well, I don't know anymore.
No, please feel free. If there is something, please feel free to speak on it.
Well, we attended the economic development, the EDA conference in Kananaskis. There were some really good presentations in there. A couple of them that stood out. The one opportunity of space and place, and that one was Leduc County, featuring a rec center that had closed down, and they took it over and developed spaces for different things for social needs, some government offices, some economic development opportunities, and they opened it up to the businesses they were home-based businesses that had great ideas, but they couldn't take it any further. So this space had a commercial kitchen in it, which allowed, I'll use a jam making place. You know, she was doing it at her home and her business was here. And by opening that space up for them, it added to how they could expand and they could grow their business by having a commercial kitchen and following on. And then they were able to utilize that space to sell their product as well. And it kind of got me thinking, we were talking on the way home about things like our Lewis Opit Center with a community kitchen, or commercial kitchen. And is there opportunity to take that to another level, to have it opened up for home businesses to expand their business? I mean, that was just kind of one example that just looking outside of the box on how to grow businesses and enhance our economic development. I had also met up with a fellow from Alberta Council, and he since has done a webinar on granting opportunities to bring things like concerts into communities. So I was going to reach out to him by email and find out if there's anything that, how it might fit and what it might look like to become a destination for something like concerts on an ongoing basis in our community. So that was another interesting one. The tourism town hall that I took in Red Deer was always good and engaging. I've got a little thing here on tourism and where they're going with it, and how much, you know, for this area alone, Central Alberta, in 2022, 1.2 billion tourism dollars were spent just in this area, and how they're working forward to increase that so that we can double that. And I think one thing that was mentioned a number of times there was Nordegg. Different people throughout the audience that were stepping up and saying, well, what's happening out there and what's going on out there? And I mean, it's great that Nordegg's got an up-and-coming tourist destination, but I think that is even more important for us to set our vision and our goals for this town to ensure that we're taking advantage of having tours stopping here and not just going out to the west. So, and Rocky Learning Council highlights was another one that I've added. They had some visitors from Australia come. That was, I wasn't here for that, but they were very interested in how our organization works and how it, how we bring the students in and with the learning program. So, and that's something that Jana is going to continue to add once a month for us to look at and kind of get some more exposure to Rocky Learning Council and the good work that they do. That's about it.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Councillor Musker, anything you want to highlight in your report?
Just that Councillor Hutchinson's a hard act to follow. I think my report's fairly concise.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Phillips.
Yes, thank you. So I was also at the EDA conference, and a couple of the sessions I attended, one was on the social well-being and quality of life and how that can drive economic development in your community. One of the examples is one community in southern Alberta basically used up their entire debt ratio to build rec facilities, build this, build this, build this. And in doing so, they attracted a lot of new development, new businesses, new economic development to that area. And it paid off. I mean, it's a gamble. Not a gamble I'm suggesting we do, but, you know, something to that effect of, you know, build it and they will come. So that community, it worked out well. And also talking about how municipalities can partner with First Nations and nonprofit groups when it comes to, you know, rec centers, buildings, splash parks, things like that, because there's different grants that municipalities can't apply for that First Nations can, and different grants that nonprofits can apply for, and using partnerships with all three can sometimes tip the process into a project happening or not happening. I was at the Age A PG conference, and my report will be in next month's package. But one of the big things that came out of there will be a notice of motion that we're talking about next council meeting regarding RCMP complement on the federal side, and some suggestions that I got. I had a lengthy discussion with Curtis Jablonski, tough name to say, the former RCMP detachment K Division, and now he's an assistant deputy minister, so he had some good ideas on how we may move forward on that front. So I'll be bringing that up in our notice of motion next week. And FCSS, we've had a new funding model, and I think I've discussed that a few times here, that we're having a new funding model because there's not enough money. There's so many requests and so many people looking for money, and FCSS just doesn't have the money to fund everybody. So we're strategically looking at how we can give out money in better ways that isn't just using a shotgun to disperse funds and you hope you hit something. We're doing it more of a targeted approach where you're using a rifle and you can actually hit something. So it's still a work in process. The first year there's bumps and the groups that we funded, some of them have been having struggles because they've got less funding now than what they had last year. But FCSS was never meant to be a funding organization. It's something that's meant to get things off the ground, get them moving, get them functioning, and then have them succeed on their own. And over the years, it's become a funding organization, and that just isn't working anymore because there's not enough money. So in June, we're having a mini strat plan for the FCSS board to basically pull the bow. And then in June, we're going to meet with the user groups, and that's where we're going to let the arrow go and have the user groups kind of tell us where we need to go. So that's kind of exciting on an FCSS front, and we did invite Minister Nixon to come to one of our meetings, and we can describe to him the challenges and the obstacles that we're having as an FCSS board just with the demands and the lack of funding. So that is about it.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Schipholt.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think pretty much everything I did is summed up in here. Coffee with the councillor. We did it at McDonald's, and they always treat us so well. Listed all the stuff in there, and one of the things that came up was us as councillors attending that we should maybe bring the CAO to one of those meetings or a couple of those meetings so they can meet him and say hi to him. So I just throw that out there that might be something that we talk to our CAO about if he's prepared to come to one of the things, maybe on Main Street where there's 5 or 6 councillors available, just to answer any questions that are available or that are out there. The doctor tour I did turned out positive, which is good. I did a second doctor tour and haven't got a confirmation yet on that one. Went to Sunday to the prayer breakfast, which was interesting, very good. A full house. And the Tim's Smile cookies, I'd like to thank everybody around the table for participating. I read in the Radio Advocate where Ponoka's very good because they hit their target of 7,000 cookies. They thought that was good. Rocky Mountain, we sold 16,600 cookies here, which is in the top 10 of the Tim Hortons in Canada.
Wow.
So that's a pile of cookies and generated a lot of revenue for the Hospital Foundation. Speaking of the hospital, the operating room is been cleaned, and I think it's pretty much ready to be fired. So
Nice.
I haven't got a confirmation on a day. Possibly, Mr. Krause, you've heard a day towards the end of June. So it's looking good. We've ordered some more equipment for the operating room, and this week has been a good week. We had another oil company come forward with a $100,000 donation for the foundation.
Wow.
So it's crazy good. The community is supporting healthcare phenomenally well. Other than that, we're just busy, attended a lot of stuff, did a few things. So overall, that's my report.
Thank you. That's really nice to hear the support that the Hospital Foundation is getting. That's incredible.
Yeah. and 16,000 cookies. And I thought Pinoka thought they did good at 7,000. I'm going like, yeah, really? So, larger community and yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. Okay, so that's everybody's reports, so I am looking for a motion to accept for information. Counselor Alt,
I'll make a motion, we accept 10.2 council activity and committee reports as information.
thank you for your motion. Any discussion on the motion? I will call that to vote. Those in favor and an opposed, that is carried. So moving forward, 11.1, we have department reports. Mr. Kraus.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So if council has any questions on any of the reports, I'd be glad to answer.
Counselor Schippel.
I just have I'm not sure if it's in these reports or if I can even ask this question. When I pulled up to the CIBC the other day, we have 3-hour parking sign. And I just wonder why we have 3-hour parking signs, because we don't, it gives people a reason to, I think, complain if someone's parked there longer than not. So are we leaving it there for the right reason or the wrong reason? I don't know. I'm not sure this is the right time to ask it, if I should be waiting till next meeting, or I give up. Anyway.
Well, it's ironic you asked the question at this time, because we've been dealing with that 3-hour parking issue pretty extensively in the last 2 weeks. And what it has been is one business phoning on another business that their employees are parking in front of their business, and we're not enforcing the 3-hour parking limit. So administratively, we talked about it and whether we bring it back up or keep the 3 hours or just take the 3-hour signs down. Administratively, we're not looking to do a change there because it provides us the tool for those types of complaints. But if council wants to reconsider that, then we'll be more than happy to bring it back up. But I think what we'll find if we take the 3 hours down, then it becomes more of employee parking versus a public parking area. But if council wants us to revisit it, we'll more than happy to bring it back to council.
Counselor Schippel.
I guess the question is, if it's causing grief, and is it necessary? And for those who know that we don't police it now, they're going to be parking there anyway. We're going to get the complaints that you just referred to where, hey, they're parking in front of my business more than anything, because I think the wise business people will park in the rear or to ask their staff to park elsewhere to make sure the customer parking is maintained out front. But I don't know. I'm just wondering if it's causing us grief and causing us hours to look after it, to police it. If we remove the signs and it removes all that, takes that right out of the picture.
Well, administratives, what we're doing right now is, so before Market and Main starts, we send our economic development officer out to talk to all the businesses about the upcoming Market on Main. Our communication staff have developed a little brochure saying that our economic development officer can hand to each business owner saying, hey, please be kind to your neighbor and have your employees, park in the rear. And then maybe in June, we'll just do a check to make sure how it's working or not. But I mean, the 3 hours gives us the tool if that becomes an issue with it becoming employee parking versus public parking, I guess. But more than willing to bring it back to council if council so desires.
Thank you for that. I think we just leave it as is for now. I think if administration feels it needs to be addressed, that they would bring it back to council versus council bringing it back to administration.
Okay.
So while I'm at the CIBC, there's the town backhoe is parked over across the street at the Mount View Hotel doing digging and stuff. And there's nothing about a report about anything going on. So you may or may not be aware of this. I'm just wondering if it was a water break or the water shut off, or I don't know.
I would have to check with engineering and ops for that specific location, because I know they're busy in other locations, but
Okay.
no one has brought it to me, so it might have been just regular maintenance or
Yeah, it would-
something they were doing.
Yeah, it would have been last Wednesday, the day after our council meeting, so.
Okay.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Counselor Hutchinson.
No questions. I just wanted to tell staff that we appreciate the reports and the time that goes into them and the information that comes with it. I feel kind of bad that they don't get to share any fun stuff with us anymore. We just have to read it, but it's just a thank you for the work that they do.
Okay. Okay, so I am looking for a motion to accept the department reports as information. Counselor Phillips.
I will make a motion to accept item 11.1, the department reports, as information.
Thank you for your motion. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? And none opposed. That is carried. The action list, Mr. Kraus.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So actually, we're all caught up on the action list. I mean,
Yeah.
I think a few things got added today, but right now, we're caught up on the GPC action list. So.
Perfect. Does anyone have any questions regarding anything on the action list? Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion. I'll make a motion to accept 12.1, the action list, as information. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call that to a vote. Those in favor? None opposed, and that is carried. Moving on, notice of motion. Do we have any notices of motion for today? Okay, so we will move on to 14. We have no closed sessions, so that being said, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 2:40.